Okay, so got video UFC 273 fight motion features Hamzat Chimaev vs Gilbert Burns slugfest. Let's have a look. It's a pretty well edited video. Kind of just want to see the Hamzat vs Gilbert highlights. This was a pretty good fight as well. Here we go. Oh. Far out. And these two put on absolute show. I absolutely love this fight. Everyone's saying that Hamzat bloody got the hype train over, he got exposed, all this shit. If anything, I thought I had way more respect for him after that fight. Way more. And I'm so much more excited to see where he goes from here. This was an interesting one. What did you guys think? Did you think Sterling or Jan ended up winning that fight? What's good? Stay on. So there you have it. The latest edition of USA Fight Motion includes highlights from Alexander Volkanovski's title defense over Jay Knight, offering between 100%. I was pretty stoked when bloody Dana ended up giving Gilbert the win bonus as well, because he definitely deserved that. It was an absolute epic fight. UFC Vegas 51 and Bellator 227 preview. Okay. One of the videos I wanted to watch was, I think it was this one. Yeah.
What does your mum love most?
Bananas.
Bananas. Banana earrings. Banana hat. Ooh la la. Happy Mother's Day.
Greatest of all time.
Style-wise,
Right.
like
Well, what about
how they did
Khabib?
it.
Entertaining.
Khabib is arguably the GOAT.
Yeah, I was gonna mention
Beats
him too.
everybody,
But again,
barely loses
style-wise,
around.
that's why I wouldn't like look at. I would put him more.
I don't know if any of you have actually seen this podcast of with Bobby Green, but he seems way more obsessed with style than he purely does of
Or
winning
two or
a fight.
three,
It's quite
you know,
strange.
4. I'm talking about who did it greatest, who did it the best.
But how do you say that
Anderson would be the number 1.
Anderson did it amazing.
There we go.
But how would you say that Khabib didn't do it the best when he retires undefeated? He destroys everybody, barely loses a round.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about style points.
Style points, I love that style. That style was smash.
He's saying
that's
it's not
a
exciting.
style.
He's
You don't
saying
think that's exciting? Khabib's fights?
Toward
A
the
couple
end,
of them. Yeah, a couple of
toward
them.
the
Oh
end,
my God.
toward the end.
This is where
when
we're
he
gonna
actually
part
fought-
ways.
I think-
We're gonna disagree here.
Oh,
You don't
yes,
think that the
at the
Justin
end.
Gaethje fight was entertaining?
That fight
Bingo,
was-
that's what it said.
Okay.
Toward the end,
Yeah, we're going backwards with this.
from the Connor on,
Right.
he got exciting.
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
okay.
But before that, and I be
You
honest,
don't think
be
that
honest,
the
I
Dos
believe,
Anjos fight was exciting? You don't think that the Edson Barboza fight was exciting? The Edson Barboza fight was wild because we knew what a good striker Edson Barboza was. We knew how well he prepared for Khabib, but there was a moment in that
Sus.
fight where
Edson was
Nurmagomedov
dope.
had him down, and you could see the look in his eyes, that 1,000-yard stare, like holy shit.
Yes.
He knew that
Yes.
this storm is never gonna end.
Michael Johnson
was
did
brilliant.
that shit to him too, though.
He clipped him. Michael
Michael
Johnson clipped
out
him.
wrestled him.
Well, not in the end, right?
No,
I
I'm
mean-
talking about Barbosa.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about Michael Johnson and Khabib.
Khabib,
No,
yeah.
no.
No, I mean like you're like
okay.
Edson. I felt like when we fought Edson, the playbook had not been exposed yet in his style, you know.
Right.
And
But that's not the style.
Bob-
you don't get that. Like for
this
instance,
is
I took
this
him out right at the
argument
beginning.
that you guys were or this conversation
Argument.
you guys were having, not an argument, but conversation you guys were
Yeah.
having, is he wants to be exciting. That's his
Style.
main objective. Is like I need the crowd to go.
Right.
They're not
You
going.
know?
They're not doing that over that like that. And
Right.
especially like Khabib, it got later on when he beat him. To be honest, I think it was the names that he was fighting that made it like, oh my God, he's doing it to Conor McGregor.
Right.
Oh my God, he's doing it to Justin Gaethje. Oh my God, you know, like what is he doing to these guys more so than style points? When you kick a guy like Vitor, pow, and drop him. Nobody else did it like that.
Right.
Nobody else was even thinking about that kick until he did it.
You know,
That's
we
what I'm
even
saying,
had
style.
conversations about people being able to KO people with that kick, and I was like, maybe, but it's pretty rare.
Yes.
I didn't.
He
I
just
didn't think it was
trended
even
a
working.
whole nother place where that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is style wise,
Yeah.
you know? The different ways, like I would give it up to a Connor, the way he was putting guys out,
Right.
the way he was doing that, the way he mixed Eddie Alvarez
Oh
up.
my goodness.
The
Oh
style
my goodness.
points were so
That was
up
style
here with the
points.
style
That's
points.
true.
That's
But
what I'm saying.
I don't see it that way. I think
That's just my own
smash.
personal. Yeah.
I think smash.
Personal
I
opinion.
love.
You
I
gotta
love
have some style to you.
I
just
I
shuts
love
down
that. See, but
everything.
the thing, I love that style, man. I really do. I love that he can do that. I love that he imposes it on everybody,
Drag you into the deep end
and
of the
nobody wants to be there, and they all get sucked into it. I loved it. I
So
loved
when I fought
the Khabib
Islam
era.
after the fight, I got him just a picture and I'm like this. I'm
Right.
like, hey, you gotta get some style, baby.
Oh
You
no!
gotta, that was great, but you gotta get some style, baby.
I understand. You're an artist.
Man.
You know,
You're
it's
an artist. Yeah,
For
you're
me
an artist.
personally, I want
Well,
to be
you
able to
live off the
I wanna
feed of
come
the
to
crowd,
watch your
right?
yeah, but I want to be
Yeah.
able to come to watch your fight. I don't watch those guys fight.
I understand.
Personally, just personally.
I understand.
I watched Khabib's end, and I even put a post up saying, "Sorry, because I always called you boring. Now you're exciting."
Well, I'm a big Islam nut rider.
I know you are. I know you are.
I think he's awesome.
And we came today. We came to shut that shit down. It's style points in this fucking
But
house.
you're here, man. You're
Style
here
points in the
because I
fucking
love
house.
you.
The real G's are in the house today.
Listen, you're here because I love you. But the reality
G's
is
in the
that
real
guy is like, if
Who
you're just
moved the
looking
numbers,
at someone
Joe?
who can win.
Who moved the number?
You
Guys
do.
like Nate
People
Diaz.
like you a lot.
Guys like Jorge.
Yes.
Guys
Right.
like
Loud,
Justin Gaethje, who
colorful
actually
people.
bring
Yes.
the fucking style and what we want to see. What do we want to see?
Would you rather bring?
I'm here selling the product.
Would you
selling it.
rather bring style, or would you rather win?
Listen, that's great.
Was it
Style?
Style first?
Hands
Man,
down.
this-
Wow.
Hands
if we
down.
So what else do we have? MMA news. Sean O'Malley lays out when and how he'll earn a UFC title shot. Let's see. Rising UFC bantamweight star Sean O'Malley has provided an update on his plans for 2022 and revealed where he hopes his results this year will leave him in the division. Having suffered his first professional loss in 2020, O'Malley returned to form with a bang last year, securing a place in the rankings and status of a contender with a trio of finishes, each of which brought him a handsome $50,000 bonus. Having brutally knocked out Thomas Almeida in March and put on a record-breaking striking display against Chris Martinho in July, Sugar capped off his year with a first-round KO of formerly ranked bantamweight Rolian Paver. I've watched this. This was freakish, man. That is such a clinical finish. Look at that. Having placed himself nicely at number 13 on the bantamweight ladder, O'Malley was expected to have a crucial year in 2022, one that would define his credentials among the elite at 135 pounds. While his appearances in the upcoming months have the same key stakes attached to them, they're perhaps coming later in the year than O'Malley would have liked, with a thumb injury sustained at UFC 269. I feel like O'Malley just cops injury after injury. I think he's pretty depleted, and the weight that he fights at is probably a little bit too light for him, if I'm completely honest. Now O'Malley is preparing for his UFC return and has laid out his octagon plans for 2022 and beyond. Sean O'Malley lays out his stops on his train to go. During a recent interview with Helen Yee, O'Malley, who boasts a 15-1 record in MMA, he always gets a bit salty about that, confirmed his intentions to make the walk 2 times this year, potentially starting with an appearance on what is expected to be a stacked International Fight Week pay-per-view card on July 2nd. If I had to guess, for 2022 fights, I'd say July and December, those two. I'd like to fight twice this year. July is about 12 weeks out, so probably, start looking to get something booked for July. I think July 2nd is International Fight Week. I'll probably end up on that card if I had to guess. That's interesting. It's always good to see O'Malley back in the ring. Definitely not headline worthy or main event worthy at this point in time, but every card that he is on, it always gives it a little bit of a boost, in my opinion, to be honest. Clean knockout in July, a clean knockout in December, a title shot next year. Pick your fights and you can get what you want, essentially. O'Malley went to reiterate that his preferred opponent would be number 9 ranked contender Pedro Munez, who is coming off a loss to Dominic Cruz at UFC 269. While a date and opponent is yet to be confirmed for O'Malley's return, it shouldn't be long until more confirmation comes to light, especially if Sugar is to enter the octagon in July. So, Aljamain Sterling blasts Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson. In the aftermath of his successful title defense at UFC 273, Bantamweight King Aljamain Sterling has slammed former referee John McCarthy's scoring of the fight. Right. John McCarthy wasn't one of the judges of that actual fight, was it? Because I'm pretty sure it was 3 rounds Sterling for 2. Was it split decision? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was split over unanimous. Yeah, it was split decision. 2 judges, I'm pretty sure, scored in favor of Sterling. 1 scored in favor of Peter Yan. I After a long recovery and spell on the sidelines, which consistently saw some fans and pundits downplay his championship status and credentials, Sterling made good on his promise to prove his doubters wrong in his first title defense. In Florida last weekend, Funkmaster was awarded a split decision victory in the eyes of most. The scoring of the fight came down to 1 round, while 2 and 3 were clearly Sterling's frames. Of course, he absolutely dominated 2 and 3. And then 4 and 5, that's the thing with the UFC scoring at this point in time. It's like Sterling dominated 2 and 3 so much more in favor than what Jan did 4 and 5. So it's ridiculous that it's a matter of just a 10-9 over a more dominant than 10-9 2 and 3, if that makes sense.
Hello meatheads, today I will speak with my favorite fighter, Khabib. Can you visit me, Khabib?
Send me a message, like location, I'm gonna come. Whatever you want, doesn't matter.
I'm in Washington.
Something change?
I heard you had a problem with Connor. Does he have security?
A lot of security.
Can you send me his location?
Moscow.
What the?
554 547 8437 63228.
My name is Conor McGregor.
This guy does the weirdest shit.
Morning, Bilal. How are you?
Good, how are you, my brother?
I'm good, man. How's it? Back to being main event, Muhammad. Feel good, or are you used to it at this point? How does that feel?
It feels good. I feel like this is more I feel like this is my first main event. You know, the last one was a rushed one. It was a short notice fight. Everything was chaotic. I didn't have my right-hand man, Lewis Taylor, with me. Now he's COVID-free, guys. He's good. You guys don't have to wear a mask.
Congratulations. How are you feeling for this fight? Obviously, it's a rematch. Vicente's had a few good performances recently. When you look at this fight, how do you feel about it, and does it even relate to the first one, or is that so long ago it's irrelevant?
Yeah, honestly, to me it's a whole different fight. It's been years since that fight. I've had 12 fights since then, so it's like I'm fighting a new opponent and he's fighting a new opponent. So that's the way I look at it. There's really not much I can take from that first fight, but motivation, and it pushed me, and knowing the feeling that it gave me that fight, what that loss meant, I'm never going to feel that again.
That's exciting. That's interesting, right? Because you can imagine that some people would almost be a bit like, this guy again. But you've taken motivation from it. You think that won't happen to me again, and that's giving you a bit of a fire into this one.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when I go back and I had the same thoughts. You know, you look at it, and to lose a fight like that, and you know, more so the people around you. You see who's really with you, who's not with you. You look at family and friends that don't
bloody Muhammad would get absolutely flogged by Hamzat. I feel like everyone's saying this sort of shit right now. I thought what Gilbert did was pretty impressive. I don't really see him ranking up at all against Hamzat. I think the only fight currently in that division that Hamzat's going to struggle with is probably the fight against Usman. And yeah, I'd probably put Usman just as a slight favorite, not an overwhelming one.
What to say to you and things like that, and they're the ones that are talking under their breath and laughing at you and saying that, oh, he doesn't belong up there, he's not good enough to be with these guys, I told you he wasn't good enough. All those people, it just fueled me to get where I am now, and to see that I'm number 5 in the world, and now this fight means a lot more. That last fight was a prelim fight, didn't mean much. It was early in our careers. Now this fight is title contendership. This fight is, we're both at the top of the division and the hardest division in the UFC.
It's funny, right? Because you're a nice guy, he's a nice guy. Is it almost nice to see the fact that, both of us have come a long way? Here we are main eventing now. Is it kind of cool to have that camaraderie with the guy?
Nah, fudge him, dude. Nah, it's cool. You know, like you always watch your past opponents, and you always whether you beat them or lose to them, you want them to continue winning because you want to be like, I'm not fighting any bums, I'm not fighting a scrub.
Kind of wanted to finish this video. I only watched a bit of it a little bit earlier.
He's just not lean anymore.
Yeah.
Well, how many days notice was the Islam fight, the Makhachev fight?
10
days?
10 days.
Yeah. How heavy were you before you took that fight?
Fuck.
Man, Bobby Green is an absolute savage for taking the Islam fight on 10 days notice. You've got probably the most dominant guy coming up in this division, and then just taking it 5 days. You're an average fighter. You did get flogged though.
Joe, it was a mess, brother. It was a mess.
Because I know, like, the cut has to be planned out, you know, if you're going to do it correctly.
And I love all you can eat sushi. I'm going to be fat after my shit.
Yeah.
When I seen Khabib, I was like, holy fuck.
He's not
what happened
fat.
to you?
He's just big. He's just not lean anymore.
Yeah, but to us,
He's
in
200
our
pounds.
world,
Yeah,
you know,
he's-
in our world, we clown each other every day. If I come to the gym after, they call me Bobby Burger King Green. Because I was fucking face is all fucking bloated and shit.
A lot of fighters do that, right? At the end of their career, they get really fat. Really common.
For the last 20 years, I've been the same weight. I deserve to be fat.
I understand.
Let me just let it go. You know, just like your hair, just let it go.
Let it go.
Let that belly out, you know, let it
Patty
go.
Pimblett?
Oh.
That motherfucker gets fat quick. He's
I
fat
hear
as
that.
fuck
I hear
right
that.
now.
I hear that.
He's fat as fuck. His face is all round and he shows his belly. He's hilarious.
Patty is
He's
People don't understand
hilarious.
this. We actually go through depression. You know, a lot of fighters, they don't recognize that. We're kind of like cheerleaders.
Right.
You look sexy, you look good. You see yourself every day in the mirror for the last 4 to 8 weeks.
Shredded.
You're shredded. You looking like
Ready to go.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, 2 days.
He gets big quick. That is ridiculous.
You showed a lot right here.
Yeah,
right here.
My face goes dead fat. Yeah, I store food in my cheeks, lad. The face just
I
goes
love this kid.
dead quick.
Later, not even like a week, 2 days. You're like, what happened? I was in shape just 2 days ago. I fought literally 3 days ago, and I'm now 195 pounds.
That happens to everybody if you go off the rails. There's Patty. Look at him now. There's Dean Thomas.
Oh,
is
it's showing the
making
exact
fun of
same
him. Look at his
video.
face. Look how fat his face gets. He shows his gut before that.
Oh, that's
there
great.
it is.
That's a great.
He's already gelling up. And he just fought. He just fought like a
Man.
couple weeks ago.
He
Talented
looks like
kid.
Chris. He does look like Chris from Family Guy. Somebody gotta tell that guy to cut his fucking hair. Shit.
No.
He looks like one of the Hanson brothers or something.
Yeah, but that's his shtick.
True.
That's his shtick, you know? Your
Everybody's gotta have
shtick
their
is you
thing.
got a
Everybody's got their
tattooed
thing.
head and you're cool as fuck, and his shtick is he's
Bobby
silly.
Green
Like his
is
hair's
a
silly.
stoner, dude.
Like I bet a lot of people underestimated him when they first saw him. Because you see like this, look at this nerd, this goofy ass hair. What is the
How's
odds that he
everyone
can
doing
fight?
today?
And
Yeah.
he can
Feel free
fucking
to
fight.
drop any questions
You can.
in the
I'll give him
chat.
that. Yeah.
Or
He's
if any
diving right
videos
into the
you
deep
wanna
end of the
jump
pool
into.
quick though. It's interesting. You know, they gave him 2 fighters. Like first guy, I forget who he fought. Was pretty talented. Second guy was pretty talented too. And now they're talking about like Ilia Topuria. That's like, ooh, that's a big jump.
That's not a big jump, and that's another thing too. Let's
I like that jump.
Let's
I
do
like it.
'cause I feel like
I like it, but
It's a
it's
pretty
a big
decent
jump.
jump.
I mean,
Come on, Joe,
I think
let's get to
Patty's
the truth,
very
Joe.
good. No doubt. I think Patty's very good. Don't get me wrong. His submission game is very.
But I try to explain this. Like,
What does your mum love most?
Bananas.
Oh, what? That's the end of the video. Sup, Jommers? Did Burns expose Hamza? Let's see this.
do that if you have
Yeah.
like a Gilbert
Watch the very
Burns
beginning of
Hamza
this one.
Chimaev fight. How do you not give both
Yeah.
of those guys a bonus for that. Like Dana did.
100%.
Yeah,
Dana
did.
gave
He gave him his win bonus.
Gilbert his
The
win
UFC.
bonus. It shouldn't go to just Hamzat after the performance that Gilbert put in. I mean, that was an
way.
amazing performance.
No,
That fight was fucking legendary, dude.
I'm talking
When
about
he
this bonus
spun
here with the crit,
Hamzat's
though.
face around with that right hand, I'm like, holy, Hamzat has a fucking chin, man. Because Gilbert
Straight on.
cracked him. Chimaev, I mean, he's impressive because he ended up winning, but I saw a lot of flaws today, and he's kind of an emotional fighter. If you go back and watch like the elite, these guys, they know how to compete. They know where they're not. You know, it's okay. You won the fight, but at the same time, it's like, hey, dude, you're starting to expose yourself. You know what I mean? You don't want to show too much of that, that you're able to take punishment. And I think that's what he showed this fight.
Oh my goodness, what a fight!
And he's
I
probably
disagree with
overtraining
that
too,
from Henry.
because he's almost like, I train 5 times a day and all that, dude. All that stuff. If you're able to compete correctly, like you can be the best version of yourself. You don't have to overtrain or continue to keep doing these training five times a day like you can't. I think Chimaev, I think he will become better because of it. But the question that I have is, will he change his training patterns? Because he was huffing, bro. You know what I'm saying? He just happened to have a little more heart than Gilbert Burns, and he was able to kind of pull away with it. But another experienced fighter that has been there before, like Kobe or Kamaru, now that changes a little bit. I think he has a better shot at 185 than 170, I promise you.
And this was the true test for Chimaev to really get an eye on him and see how good are you, kid. You
Gilbert
know?
landed more strikes. Gilbert posted it on his Instagram, like the numbers, the breakdowns and the numbers.
What Gilbert didn't do right here, man, his composure, man. Bleeding, his demeanor. I think Chimaev was getting hurt too, though. But now it's like Chimaev needed this humble pie. The key in that fight with Gilbert Burns, it's Gilbert Burns really fought him in that first takedown, and he was able to, get his respect. You know what I'm saying? And dude, it's tiring, man, trying to take somebody down, especially when you don't get it. So that's what happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is game.
Chimaev was just getting it wrong. He thinks he could walk on water a little too much, and that's partially probably our fault, my fault, everybody's fault, because we're kind of putting him on a pedestal where he really hasn't proved anything. And then once he fought a top contender, man, a lot of people gave that fight to Gilbert Burns. He could have lost that thing.
I think someone could land many grazing shots, and someone plants you with one. That one counts way more.
Yeah.
So if someone's
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's where I'm trying to get to is, how do you see fighting? That's where we have an issue with judging.
Yeah.
But it's
so subjective. But that's the point. Some people think a takedown is everything.
Yes.
Some people think a takedown only means something if you do damage.
Yes.
If the guy gets back up and you took him down, that's something, but you haven't inhibited him at all. All you've done is taken him down.
Yeah.
You haven't hurt him.
Yeah.
Because that happens oftentimes where you see a takedown and then it's just a positional scramble, and then the person gets up to their feet and no exchanges, no strikes landed at all.
Around.
But he wins the round for that, which I think it should be worth something if you do damage, something if you threaten for a submission, but then less of a thing if nothing happens.
Exactly.
No ground and pound at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's subjective, because I think we can decide, what is most effective.
Yes.
Is a guy backing up and catching counter shots more effective, or is it you
coming forward
and being aggressive? Because that's the other thing. Like, people say, the aggressor should be awarded more points. Like, always? Because maybe that guy's just making a tactical error.
Yeah.
If he's making a tactical error, the guy who avoids that error should be rewarded. The big thing that bothers me the most is not tough fights, it's weight cuts.
Yeah.
I just think it's a dumb thing. Guys that know what they're doing, they're professional fighters, they know that they're gonna have a fight like Hamzat and Gilbert just had, where both guys take crazy damage.
Mm-hmm. If Chimaev goes out there and fights the Nigerian Nightmare like that, he's in big trouble, man.
100%.
We just saw him kind of become human here. And I almost feel like he's too big for 170. And I always said that, man. Like, he's too big. Like, yeah, you can make the weight, but you're barely able to make the weight where it really affects you. I think Chimaev at 185 pounds is a more dangerous Chimaev than 170 pounds.
Everybody understands that.
Maybe.
It's part of the risk of but why is there an extra risk? Why is there this extra risk of starvation and dehydration? What is that?
Yeah.
That hinders performance.
Fuck yeah. Injuries start
100%.
to come, you
I mean,
know?
think of the amazing performances we've seen in the UFC, and we've seen fucking amazing performances. I've got to imagine that
They were strong.
some of those people, as elite as we saw them, they're capable of something another level even higher if they weren't dehydrated, if their body was operating on like peak efficiency. It's not going to be peak efficiency if you dehydrate yourself down to like, some of these guys look terrible. There's a reason why we differentiate by size, because it's a big advantage. It's a giant advantage. And so everybody wants the best advantage. Like, how can I do it and still be healthy? Like, who does it the best? I think Usman does it the best, because he's big.
That guy's a fucking killer.
That's why
He's
he's pound for
big,
pound.
dude. Anybody that's going from 55 to 70, go stand next to him. He's the perfect size for 170.
He wasn't able to take down Gilbert Burns. Does he have the ability to take down Kobe or the Nigerian Nightmare? I think Chimaev could probably still beat Kobe, but if it's a 5-rounder,
Maybe not.
which more likely probably would, unless they do like a fight night, then that's a different story. I think Kamaru just sits there, looks pretty. The more film that he gets on Chimaev, the better that Kamaru Usman is going to be able to kind of game plan for him.
There's no way that Chimaev versus Covington is a bloody fight night. That has to
Our
be
judges
a
are not educated.
main event.
Oh, I don't think that's true. I
Or
think a
at
lot
least
of them are
co-main to a
educated. You're
massive
putting a
card.
guy's career, like the Jan Sterling fight, for
Yeah.
instance. Very close fight. You look at it, you go, wow, how do you score this? You know, for sure, Jan, the fourth and fifth, it looked like he won those 2 championship rounds. But damn, we got to see that. I mean, we got to see some phenomenal grappling.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to see Aljamain put on a fucking back clinic, a back-taking clinic and holding. I mean, that's against a guy who trained to avoid his back. That's all. I mean, Aljamain is the backpack. Everybody knows he's a master at the rear naked choke. So that's what he's wanted to avoid, and he gets there anywhere. And once he gets there, he can't get free. The entire round, he's just defending
names,
against
man?
being strangled. Like, almost the entire round. That's worth a lot. The idea that that's a 10-9 is, to me, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
It's crazy. So fan bonuses, previous
100%
fan
agree
bonuses.
with Joe there. I felt like the fight between Sterling and Jan, it's like the rounds that Jan ended up winning, it's like, how do you score them in comparison to the rounds that Sterling won? Because Sterling's rounds were way more dominant than Jan's. So I think that's a little bit of a discrepancy in the scoring when it comes to this sort of, the UFC. It's like, how can you have one round where it was maybe 50-50 outweigh the possibility of 2 completely dominant rounds and 2 somewhat dominant rounds for Jan? So overall, I thought Sterling definitely won this fight, especially from how dominant he was in 2 and 3. But yeah, 1 was questionable, so I can understand where possibly Dana was like 3-2 to Jan. But then again, I thought 2-3 completely outweighed the rest of the fight. 4 and 5 were not even half as dominant as 2 or 3 were.
This is Khamzat Chimaev, Volkanovski, and Petr Yan. Volkanovski, you want to talk about a dude who's on
Nasty.
another level.
He was there
Holy,
too.
he's so goddamn good this weekend. Oh, I was stunned. I was stunned
Volk
watching
is
that
a
performance because I
freak.
knew, everybody
good to
knows
be an
Korean Zombie's tough.
Australian, man.
Everybody knows that Volkanovski is vicious. He's fantastic at ground and pound, vicious striking. But all that shit was on a totally different level Saturday night. Like, all of his footwork and movement, his ability to avoid counters, his timing, it was so precise. I think he's even better now. I mean, I think he gets better every time we see him, and I think that was the best version of him by far.
100%.
Not that all the other versions weren't super impressive too. He's just even better than he was before. I mean, that was a fucking masterclass. That was a masterclass in hitting someone and not getting hit.
Yeah.
And just imposing your will.
That's
those Volkanovski fights were wild. I was so bummed out at I wanted to see that third fight. I wanted to see
Do you
how
guys
that
know
plays
if
out.
Korean Zombie actually retired after the Volk fight, or if that was? I thought he did, but I'm seeing a few articles saying that he may be coming back. I'm not too sure.
Because Max has never looked better, and then Volkanovski.
What, Volkanovski smokes Max again? I wanted to see what DC had to say. Yeah, everyone's saying, yeah, Hamzat hype train's over, that he was exposed, all this shit. If anything, I have so much more respect for him as a fighter after that fight. Like, he is an absolute fucking beast, dude. He hasn't yet. He said he needed time to figure out, and after all his losses, he thinks about retirement. Yeah, fair play. After the bloody damage that he took on the weekend, but that was, yeah, Volkanovski just showed why he's the champ, I guess. Korean Zombie looked like an absolute journeyman.
Chimaev Gilbert Burns was the fight that many were looking forward to when we went into the weekend. It absolutely delivered.
Man.
Some say it delivered above the title fights. It overshadowed it building into it, and it overshadowed it on the actual night. When you look back on that fight, when you think back on that fight, how satisfying was it to see Gilbert Burns fight in the way that he did?
Yeah, for sure.
Even though he lost, and we saw Hamzat challenge in the way that we needed to see to find out if he truly is elite of the elite.
You know, that was what that fight was about. One, you got to think of.
So you think Hamzat was exposed?
The courage and the bravery of Gilbert Burns. This is a guy who's number 2 ranked in the world. He didn't have to take that fight. And there were many people that were in between 11 and 2 that didn't want to fight with Hamzat Chimaev. And for him to stand toe-to-toe, he gets taken down in the early rounds or in the first round. He fights his way back to his feet. And then we really don't see Hamzat Chimaev wrestle or grapple the rest of the fight. He drops Hamzat Chimaev. Everybody's bleeding. And, really, when you go into the third round, it's either man's fight. And we watched them go toe-to-toe, nobody back down. I think Gilbert Burns in that fight, is one of those rare occasions where you gain respect for the loser.
100%.
You look at the guy who lost the fight and you say, no, he shouldn't drop far in the rankings. Yes, he still should be
but it's like
in
people giving
championship
Gilbert so
contention.
much respect. You're only giving Gilbert so much respect because of the amount of hype that this man had. Hamzat is an absolute beast, dude. And at 27 years old, I'm pretty excited to see where he goes from here. Like, just everything about the event of those two fighting, with Hamzat sitting on the cage with Gilbert walking out, Hamzat sprinting out in terms of his walkout. Like, he's just exciting, man. Like, he's like a little kid who can just throw hands so well.
Still is one of the elite fighters in the world. And then on the other side, we got to see Hamzat Chimaev pushed. We got to see Hamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, I do know what you mean in terms of being exposed to some extent, but I think it will put him in a more reasonable, I guess, vision and ranking than what everyone had with this idea that he was like the chosen one in the UFC or something. Like, he's good and he's up there, but he's not like levels above everyone else like everyone thought he was. He's still very good though.
Yeah, hurt. And it was funny, DC, I was thinking about Rocky, and obviously the fight was never like Drago and Rocky, but when Hamzat Chimaev started to bleed, I was like, see, he is a man. He is a man. He can bleed too. Yeah. And so it was cool to see that, you know what I mean? And I think, a guy like you who was also a champion can really respect two men going toe to toe in that manner, and there wasn't even a belt on the line.
Very rarely do you go into a fight where there are so many questions on both sides, right? Can Gilbert Burns stand up to what has become the big bad boogeyman in Hamzat Chimaev? Is Hamzat Chimaev really that guy? Look, we found out Saturday. We found out every single thing we needed to know. Gilbert Burns is still the elite of the elite. And I don't know why it was ever in question. The only way it looked like it was in question, RC, was because the odds were stacked so heavily against them. But obviously that's why we play the game. You know, they always say that's why we play the game. Well, Hamzat Chimaev is the real deal because he got pushed. This dude had fought 4 times and he got hit 4 times. He got hit so much last Saturday. He got taken to places that he never intended to go, especially not to this point in his career.
That's why it was such a good fight. It's like... I was expecting a bit of a walkover from Hamzat's perspective, but seeing him dragged into the deep end by Gilbert and then do what he does, get absolutely slogged and still be standing, walking him down. Like, it was just impressive. It was
early.
I gained more respect from that fight than I did watching the 4 previous to that. So
it's still very early for a young fighter, and he fought the #2 guy in the world. He got his hand raised.
Yeah, exactly.
And he also
Warrior
was able to
mentality, and
go
you have
through
to
the
kill
fire
him.
in the sense
Work on his
that
cardio
he
and
got
not get
dropped.
punch drunk.
He was pressed.
I definitely
he
agree
was
with
pushed,
that.
and he still won the fight unanimously across the board, I believe. I think it was 29-28 all, or did somebody score the fight for Gilbert Burns? I'm not exactly sure. I was watching with a whole bunch of Armenians, and they were all kind of hoping Hamzat won. So I wasn't able to really say, like, it was a weird situation. But it was a fantastic fight, and both of these guys raised their stock in a fight where it absolutely delivered. Very rarely does a fight
That's the
have
first
that
time I've
much hype
seen someone on their
Ryan.
back, though, throwing hammer fist back into someone's face. It was pretty hectic.
And it exceeds the expectation. I thought that one did that.
DC, do you believe, though, that the hype was more about who Hamzat Chimaev could be, and that he would actually either be tested or we watch him dominate Gilbert Burns? And in watching that fight for you, how do you now view Hamzat Chimaev as it pertains to someone like a Kobe Covington or the champion Kamaru Usman?
If I'm being honest, I honestly give him more value.
Yeah.
It's so absurd that people are saying he was exposed. Exposed for what? Exposed for what? You just got in the game, right? Your highest level fight was against Li Jingliang, and because of the way that you beat him, you got pushed all the way up the rankings to the #2 guy in the world, who had just beaten Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, 100%.
Who had fought for the championship against Kamaru
I know
Usman.
what you're saying. It's like if the hype train ended for Hamzat after that Burns fight, it's like it's going to a decision, and if it's like 50-50 either way in terms of who could possibly win it, it's like they're always going to be giving it to Hamzat here. It's like it just, all the money that comes with him stops right there and then if they give that win to Gilbert. I do know what you mean.
He was not exposed, Ryan. He was not exposed. If
Happened to Izzy a
anything,
few fights
he
as
was
well.
proven further to be a guy that is very dangerous as he gets closer and closer to the top of the division. Because now, if Dana is successful in making him and Covington, then you would imagine that he's one more win from fighting for a championship. If he can fight in the way that he did last weekend, if he can show the heart that he did to get through the situations that he got himself into last weekend, this is a guy that will be a challenge for the champ, Kamaru Usman. But no, his stock did not drop at all, because so many times we see these hot prospects, RC, get tested and they wilt and they quit and they crumble. He didn't do that. He kept pressing and he got the job done. Hats off to Hamzat.
100%.
Yeah, I think, what was amazing to me in watching it, DC, was the few times, Gilbert landed significant strikes and Hamzat would just wave his hands like, come on. And, I always wonder when I'm watching you guys, is that a little, we used to call it fifi, right? We used to call it false enthusiasm. When you really want something or you're not really excited about something, but you fake it so everybody else feels it. So I'm watching him thinking, does he really want Gilbert Burns to keep coming forward? Does he really want to continue getting hit? And that was important to me for people to see, because we had never seen him hurt. I mean, hell, we've barely seen him get any strikes landed on him in the UFC. And so to see him take in the deep water, to see him touched up extremely early, I thought that was what people needed from Hamzat Chimaev. Like, to dominate DC and to beat people the way that he has early on in his UFC career is cool, right? But what do we always say about our greats? We like to see them go through wars. We want to see some of that adversity. And so, DC, is it, when you look at the way he won the fight against Gilbert Burns, I can't believe that going into it, that's what his coaches and trainers wanted, that they wanted an entirely stand-up striking match. Are you surprised that he was able to win in the fashion that he did?
Not surprised. For so long,
I feel like
he has
Hamzat was the one that just wanted to stand there and pretty much bang with Burns. if you haven't seen that video of his coach pretty much just raging at him within, I think it was like after the second round. Yeah, it would have been after the second round. Man, he was getting that fired up at him. I think Hamzat very much swayed from the initial game plan and just wanted to, yeah, show everyone what a warrior he was. Do you watch MMA, Guro? He's got hella content and is a hardcore you'd probably enjoy. I don't, dude, but I will write it down right now and I'll probably watch it after this video. MMA Guru. I'll finish this.
Relied on the wrestling. That's why he's been so dominant, taking people down and smashing them. Wasn't surprised because if you look at their stature, if you look at the size of both men, you would imagine that Hamzat was he's the bigger guy, he's the longer guy, he's the younger guy. He would hold a lot of the advantages in the striking. Gilbert Burns is a grappler. He is a jiu-jitsu based fighter from the very beginning of his career. Now, has he developed into a world-class striker? Yes. But he was a jiu-jitsu guy. Hamzat is a big wrestler, but he is shown on multiple occasions massive power in his hands.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
I was surprised that
every
the fight
shot
went as long as it did, and he wasn't able to get him out of
having was,
especially when he hurt him. When he hurt him with the jab
in every shot.
And he dropped him, I thought he's back off.
How technical he
is.
Get
back to trying to
you
land
could definitely
that punch,
see it in
but
the
he
fight.
never
Like
seemed
he's
to go
just
back to
turning away from shots, just instinctively.
Being in the battle and he threw a lot of uppercuts in tight and just kind of loading up to try to get Gil out there. When in reality, he hurt Gilbert when he really just let it flow and he landed that monster jab that put him on his butt.
So when we look at, obviously, Kamaru Usman beat Gilbert Burns in very impressive fashion. I believe that this was an impressive fight by Hamzat Chimaev as well. But sometimes when the picture becomes clearer, you become less excited.
Yep.
Are you still as excited about seeing a Hamzat Chimaev challenge Kamaru Usman? Or after watching that fight against Gilbert Burns, are you like, maybe that's not the smoke he wants right now?
I gotta pop the screen.
You know what's
stream
crazy
down for a bit.
is
I'll
I want to
probably
see
be
the
back
Covington fight
on a
now.
little
You
bit
know,
later.
like,
I gotta go
take
downstairs
nothing
real
away
quick.
from his
Sorry about that.
performance